This is a video that is in addition to my amateur radio videos, so I'm not bumping any amateur radio videos for Sky 9. We're practicing landings here. We're doing it at two different airports. This is Delta, which is Alpha Juliet Zulu AJZ, and got a nice 5,500 foot runway here, taking off from runway 3. The other airport we'll be using is Westwinds, which is very close, Delta 17. So the point of this exercise is to practice landings. I'm just going to show this one takeoff here as we head up. This tape is only, well, it's less than 10 minutes long, but it was actually an hour and a third all total, as I leave out most of the stuff where we're going around and going through punching holes in the air. The idea is to put the airplane down gently. And today was not one of my best days. I mean, it was an acceptable day. We did learn a few things, but the day before I had done a little bit better, although the GoPro camera certainly did not. I finally figured out the trick to getting the GoPro camera to work correctly. Okay, so we're going to come around here and land at runway 3 at Delta. Now, my instructor is Dennis Dugan, who is generally considered by everybody around here to be the dean of local instructors. He's got every certificate that you can fit in a logbook, and he's very, very good at ascertaining what a person does. Now, some things not shown on this are 2 go-arounds that I initiated, and also a, shall we say, 15-minute little chat with the engine off, parked on a taxiway, halfway through the lesson, while we see if we can't figure out why I have retrogressed from the day before. This landing is not too bad, but it's quite long, and Dennis doesn't like that. Other instructors don't seem to mind. They say, you've got all this runway, use it. But he wants me to touch down where I should touch down, which is right where those big bars are that you see right there. And as you see, I go sailing right past those and put the thing down. He wants more of a precision approach. In fact, we practiced a couple precision approaches at Westwinds where we tried to, wheels down on the numbers. Okay, we're down here, a little bit of a bounce to that landing, and we'll take off, and we're going to go the other way. So we taxi down to the end of the runway, go into the little turnaround at the end of runway 21, and wait for an appropriate time to take off. And here we go. We're going to go out and try some the other way. Now, runway 3 has a right-hand pattern. Runway 21 has a more common left-hand pattern. And the wind is, according to the AWAS, was calm. Well, that certainly wasn't true. There was wind. Now, the GoPro is attached to a strut on the wing on the left-hand side. So that's why you see just the forward part of the aircraft there. It takes about 1,100 feet to take off just with a normal takeoff. If I had kept the brakes on, taken the engine all the way up, we could have gotten in the air with less runway. Here we come in again. This last little part of pulling the stick back just exactly the right amount and putting that thing down is a fine art, and is one of the last arts of flying that I am learning to do properly. Here we do it again. Basically, this video is landings, and you can tell some of them were better than others. What Dennis is trying to get me to do is not worry about heights, speeds, etc., but to maintain a steady speed, 70 miles an hour, and come in for a very smooth landing by cutting the engine back to about 1,500 RPM. We land with it 1200 to 1500 RPM. And then we can land very nicely. What I tend to do is come in a little high and take advantage of the long runway, which one of my instructors actually preferred that. Dennis does not. So we do what our present instructor says to do. And here we are taking off again from runway 21. Then we'll head on down. The takeoffs were fine. The pattern work was acceptable. Dennis is not fussy about the altitude at which we start the descent, but is quite fussy about doing it visually by having an aim point in mind and remembering that the speed of landing is 70 miles an hour, and you control how far you go by how much engine you have, and you control the 70 miles an hour by the pitch, which is counterintuitive. And my poor counter got a little bit countered that time. There's one bump, two bumps, third, we're landed. Oh, that was not a good landing. But this is where we had the little runway chat. Then taxiway chat. Then we went over here to Westwinds, which actually has a runway nearly as long, although nowhere near as wide as the one at Delta. And it has a displaced threshold. You're not supposed to land where the arrows are, but land, we're aiming at the numbers, and they're a pretty good aim point. And now as I start to level off, they slip between us and we land just fine. But he would like better than that. He'd like me to actually set down on the numbers, so we tried that a couple of times. The key to getting the GoPro to work properly, as it turns out, is to always put inside of it a blank memory card. If there's anything on the memory card, the way memory cards work, you would put you'd have some stuff on there, and it'd have to work around that. And if the GoPro cannot get to the memory card right away, look at this, we're coming right down toward those numbers there. That is definitely in our zone, and I think I landed just within a few feet of those numbers. That was a pretty good landing, actually, there. And then I followed it up with a go-around. But in theory, a pilot is never penalized for a go-around. There is one exception to that, and that is during a check ride. If this is supposed to be a simulated emergency landing, you don't have the luxury of going around. So going around is not an excuse for that. So we'll come in here for another landing. I think I do fairly well. Now, what's interesting about 70 miles an hour is this. Takeoff speed on this airplane is 70 miles an hour. 70. Okay, that's with full throttle, and we climb at about 500 feet per minute in this winter weather. And then landing speed is 70 miles an hour, but with the throttle way back, so you're actually right on the numbers there. Actually doing pretty good. We're going to head back to Delta now and wrap this up. It was good practice. I'm going to get with Dennis again very soon. We've got some tentative dates set up. He's extremely busy, as you might imagine, not only for instruction, but for quite a variety of other tasks. This one we're, I think, coming in okay. I'm not trying to make this super fancy. It is our final landing of the day. And really I should be touching down about right where those, what I've heard called refrigerator doors, are laying down there. That is a marker of where you should normally have your wheels down.